You've seen the movie, you've seen the comic books, and yes, things have changed. Have they been for the better? Have they been for the worst? We have those answers right now. What's up, my know-it-alls? We have a brand new thing to talk about, and that is Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. Yes, just like the teaser says, we did not expect some of the changes that have happened, so now we're going to get all into it right this second. First off, though, what are some of your first, you've read the comics. Mm-hmm. We've watched the movie. Mm-hmm. I've played the video game a long time ago.
There was a video game?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Oh, that's why the movie was...
Yeah, it's kind of a video game. Yeah, no, it's fun. But what do you, so before we get into some of this, what are some of your first blush thoughts? Imagine this as being your out of the theater reaction.
Great 4-hour movie. It was really good. I really did like it. It took the turn that I wasn't expecting. The anime looked a lot like the comic book. Of course, there were little like tweaks and stuff, but at the same time, it looked a lot like the comic book. I love that they brought everyone back. I love that all the voices are pretty much lined up. They look like their characters. Like, I feel like that's a given, but I love how much, like, I'm looking at a animated John Cena. What's his
Scott
face?
Pilgrim.
Michael Cera. I'm looking at an
Cera.
animated Michael Cera.
Yeah.
I'm looking at a whole bunch of like animated people like in real life, and I just think that it looks really good. Yeah. What about you?
I thought this was. I didn't expect at first. It took me. Remember, I'm the older guy here. It took me a second to kind of get used to the pivot change. There's some major plot points that change because the story doesn't exactly take place in line with the normal story. It starts like it's going to, but then it shifts real fast.
It's kind of like an alternate dimension. That's how I kind of took it.
That's a great way to look at it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sorry.
So, no, it's exactly what it is.
Okay.
And so I feel like the very first episode, which is literally called, I believe it's Scott, A Precious Little Life.
Yeah, Scott Pilgrim's Precious Little Life.
And it starts almost identical to the story we know. Only difference is at the very end, when he gets his first challenge against Matthew Patel, he loses. Oh, I know. And I was like, what are you doing? And so the story immediately pivots from there. And so the next episode, episode 2, takes us into it's called A League of Their Own. And it's all about, you get to see the bad guys. You get to see the League of Evil X's and all that. And Matthew, now high on the win of having defeated Scott, decides, well, I'm going to go in and challenge everybody. I'm going to challenge...
Well, you also find out in the first episode that... I think of him as Goose now because now
Gideon.
we don't call him.
No, we don't call him Gideon anymore, yeah.
You see Gideon, just having a bunch of cameras, and he pretty much,
super stalkery.
tells him to do that, and they do a little like dinner table thing, and was like, okay, like why are we all here? I defeated Scott Pilgrim, and she still didn't go out with me. What's going on?
Dude's
and it had something to do with like the ranks or whatever. So he goes, I challenge you, and so. Challenges were made, and then Matthew Patel won.
Right? Which blew me away, too. I was like, wait a minute.
And he's the lowest ranked X, which is like, okay, cool. Yeah. Go off, I guess.
Absolutely. So then what happens is he takes over everything because Gideon puts it all on the line. So he wins Gideon's business, his CEO, empire, the whole 9 yards.
The league.
Yeah. So he takes it all over. The whole thing, and like you said, it's because he's not. It's so funny how they rank. I never realized they ranked them. I just assumed that the numbers were literally the order in which Ramona dated them. But apparently that's not the case. And so I liked the way they represented his because it's the first time we get to see his demon hipster chicks.
Oh yeah,
they were
that was pretty good. That was pretty good, and the CGI wasn't bad either. So
he has this cool power he like grows these like spirit arms and can fight with multiple pairs of arms. I was like, okay, I don't know if that's a Hindu thing or not, but at the end of the day, it was dope. It was really cool because he's all in the movie, he's all singing about Vishnu and stuff the whole thing. So I don't know if that's anything to do culturally or whatever, but all I know is he whips out with these other arms and starts fighting, and he's pretty awesome. So then we roll into the next episode, which is called Ramona Rents a Video. The episode starts with Ramona having had a dream. In her dream, she's in that same brain highway thing that she normally, the shortcut through Scott's brain, which shouldn't exist if he's dead. And she can faintly hear his voice. So she's convinced he's still alive somewhere, and she's on a mission. So what does she do? She goes, she tracks down the video cassette from the nightclub, and she sees that Scott got sucked into what looked like a vegan portal. These are words I never thought I would say. So he gets this green-colored vegan portal, and now she's determined to find out who it was that kidnapped him and where her Scot is.
So she has to go to the video store to, get the video from, she goes to the nightclub, goes to the video store to see and show Kim what's going on.
Where the heck did Kim's coworker come from? Maybe she's a character in the comic books. She's cool.
She's aight.
Yeah.
What do you call it? So they do that, and there's well, that's a vegan portal.
And while they're at the store, what's her nut shows up?
Roxy.
Yeah, dude. And you get this really dope fight. I love the fact. Okay, there were good fights. Part of me wishes there were more of them. But there were really good fights. Mm-hmm. And so and I love it because they got the voice guy, so it's like Roxy versus Ramona Flowers.
I think also what's cool is that in this, we get to see a more in-depth backstory of Ramona and the ex or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I just thought that was cool. Continue.
So then, while they're having that, so they have their fight and whatnot, really fun moment where Kim can't decide whether she wants to kiss what's-her-face or not, if there's going to be anything, so she decides to kiss her. So her and Roxy share a moment. And then finally, Ramona's like, "Yeah, you gotta go. Just leave." And but they're friends. They make up, and you have this really. I liked.
It was healing.
You get this. So it's funny, having removed Scott from the picture, you suddenly find there's all this depth in all these characters, and I kind of think that's what was the point. That was honestly the point. I think that was Edgar Wright's point in helping put this whole idea together, this concept together. Is how do we show the greater depth in these characters than they had before? And I was really excited because Ramona suddenly has a lot of personality that she didn't have before. Kim, she tells briefly, she recaps the story, which is the origin story of Scott and her, which is when he fights the 50-foot purple giant to save her from a band of ninjas or whatever. And so, I thought it was interesting. Wallace is off the chain in this
Wallace
thing.
talks so much.
He is
oh my gosh.
Wow.
Wallace is a character, let's say that.
So much of a character in this. So then you go to we move on now to episode 4, which is Whatever, which Ramona heads to the film set to see Lucas, because she's checking each of the evil exes to see which of them may have been involved in Scott's demise or the faking of his demise. And while she's there, she gets to, there's a movie being made. Why is a movie being made? Young Neil has apparently written a screenplay.
He thinks it's his sleep paralysis demon who wrote it.
For real, because he wakes up and he sees someone sitting at his desk and writing a thing, and it's this whole movie. It's the movie we've seen. It's Scott Pilgrim versus the World, which I thought was awesome. Which I thought was very, very cool. And so when they're filming it, because Ramona goes to Lucas, he's playing Scott Pilgrim, which I thought was hilarious. And she's like, wait, but this is how things went down, and this and that, and it's all the lines we know from the movie. And so what's her face is who's playing Ramona?
Envy Adams.
Envy Adams. Dun dun dun.
And Ramona is her stunt double.
By the way, everybody's voicing their own characters, and they all sound amazing. Brie Larson totally rechannels that original Envy Adams voice.
Oh, yeah.
So, are you a fan of Sex Bomb? No, I'm kind of seeing someone in the band. That's crazy! I am too!
And it's great. I was like, okay, nobody's gotten out of sync,
right.
Though they do feel a hair older than their animated counterparts, I think, should sound.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I'm okay. Knives, the actress who plays Knives Chow, dead on should be voicing anime if she's not voicing anime. It's Ellen Wong. Mm-hmm. She's really, she knows how anime is supposed to be voiced. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So Lucas plays Scott. Cool casting, I guess. They fired the guy who played Wallace, so Wallace could play Wallace.
Totally.
They get Envy Adams to play Ramona, and then I feel like I'm missing one person, but no, I think I laid out the basics.
Right.
If not, whoops, sorry guys. I know I'm supposed to be a know-it-all, so.
Well, I know that Lucas decides to move on with life in his career and he wants to have nothing to do with this thing because he decides he wants better whatever. And he gets fired by his boss because I guess it comes to find out that he had dated someone who was underage or something. and they're not underage. It was like really too young for them.
It wasn't Knives, right?
No, it wasn't. It was the actress who plays Knives,
which is
like
ironic.
30, who's like 30 years old, but I guess in the movie because she plays someone who's young, the world he was.
Oh, and the paparazzi ninjas.
Paparazzi ninjas are the best. Because that's how all those punks are in real life as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, yeah.
But so after Lucas, what they end up doing is that Todd ends up playing the part of Scott. So you have Todd, Envy, and Wallace in a scene. And because Envy and Todd can't keep their hands off each other, Wallace has the brilliant idea and talks to the director, Edgar Wrong. Talks to the director about changing the scene up. And then sure enough, he's got Todd and Wallace making out.
And then what's his face feels a spark. Todd feels a spark, and Wallace feels nothing. And then Envy gets upset, and this has a whole drama thing.
It does have a whole.
It ends up leading him to not be vegan anymore. And he loses his vegan powers.
Yep, he loses vegan.
Because he's heartbroken because of Wallace.
It's awful. By the way, that was the episode. That was episode 5, which is described, which is Lights, Camera, Sparks.
By the way, neither of them had anything to do with Scott. They had no idea.
I know. So finally, Ramona pins down, it must be Gideon and Julie. Now, Gideon, by this point, come to find out, apparently he's from Toronto. He's from this area, and his name used to be...
Goose.
His name used to be Goose.
Like something Goose. It was...
And he was such a nerd in school and stuff. He used to wear these No Fear t-shirts, which, by the way, back in the 90s was totally a thing. And because he wore them, he was like, yeah, I'm Mr. No Fear, this and that. And that's kind of what helped propel him into eventually becoming something, is because he was like, well, clearly I'm the guy with no fear. And Julie dated him back then.
So Knives and Steven Still have become fancy of each other. They're like making music, writing stuff, and they somehow get involved with Matthew Patel after he fires everyone from the movie. Meant to mention that. And also, another thing, there's a random robot running around.
Yes. That's in the very beginning, it looks like it's a robot that the Kadianagis built, and you don't know anything more. But you just see him running around.
And everywhere. Even in the intro, you see a bunch of people, and then, like, it's very end of, like, the intro.
Yeah.
It's everybody involved with Scott Pilgrim, and then the robot, and they're going, like, so, yeah.
I think it's like that.
No.
Never mind.
Everybody there, yeah, sure, but...
No, I know, everybody there. Except for the two on the outside. Those are special characters. You have to unlock them. So, yeah, then you get to that moment where when they're talking they go and they confront Julie and Gideon. And Julie's very much like, he's a loser, this and that. At least if he was evil. Like, because apparently she wants to be evil, too.
And she also went to high school with them.
Yes. And that's what attracts her to him, is that he had like aspirations to do things. And so now he's a loser who sits at home. Him and what's his face? Not Todd. Him and the other guy, Lucas. Just sit around playing video games and wrecking her house. It's pretty funny. And so finally, at the very end of that episode, there's a knock at the door.
Hey.
Scott?
Scott's back.
Pretty much.
So that brings us to episode 7, which is the penultimate episode. And if you know anything about this channel, we love us some penultimate episodes. So the episode's called To Scott, To Pilgrim, with the numbers 2. You finally get his story. She figured out everything.
Yeah.
And he confirms you were right, but you're wrong about who.
She figures out pretty much that they made a vegan robot who never eats. And that's what ended up making the portal. Now, where is this robot from? They're from the twins in Scot, but that's a whole like complicated story that we're just like about to go into. So, yeah.
From the future.
How many years is it? Like 20, 10? 10 years
10 years in the future.
10 years in the future.
Yeah. This first 10 years, then later on there's another jump in the future for even further.
Yes.
So this is 10 years in the future, and older Scott has brought younger Scott to the future because him and Ramona have broken up, and they're currently
they got
separated.
divorced.
They got divorced.
Well, that's what he said.
Split the whole bit, and at the end of the day, so he wants young Scott to not date her. That's why he changed everything.
When me and Ramona were having problems, you said, too bad I don't have a time machine so I can go back and stop myself from dating her in the first place.
Buddy, I was obviously joking.
That's what happened. Everything got changed because dude went back in time. So that's why this is a different story. That's what you said when you said it was like an alternate universe, whatever. And I dug the concept of what they were doing, especially because you get to see older Wallace, who's still Lech, and but he has white hair. Everybody looks exactly the same, by the way.
He's rich now because he has a rich husband, I think.
That's right.
That he never sees.
He takes young Scott, because young Scott refuses to. And by the way, older Scott's really in rough shape.
Oh, he's annoying. I didn't like him.
He's rough. And Will Forte voices him, by the way, which I thought
Abraham
was really cool.
Lincoln.
That's right. He played from Clone High. And so, yeah, older Ramona uses her time-traveling rollerblades that were made from old spare parts of a DeLorean. And when she goes 88 miles an hour, she time travels. And so she takes him, she puts him in her interdimensional purse, at the same one where her giant hammer comes out of, and takes him back to the past and essentially leaves him there. And you find out the whole thing. You find out she discovered older Scott's plan and was like, well, no, I'm not going to let that happen. So she got young Neil to keep a journal and write this whole memoir of what had happened and helped him write into a script.
Isn't it like something old Neil?
Yeah. It's the
old young Neil.
Yeah, old young Neil. It's the journal of old young Neil, and it's later on he publishes a book, whatever. So they finally return. So in the present. And she leaves, by the way. And so Scott and Ramona are finally back together. They go to kiss. There is a force field preventing them from kissing.
I should also mention that in the future, old Scott, he mentions to like our Scott that like, hey, like, I will do anything to prevent you from like getting with Ramona.
That's right. Yeah, he did. He's a punk. That's all there is to it.
The worst.
He's really the worst. So all of this to culminate, they have to find a. So they got to challenge everybody because like, clearly someone still has it out for them. So they go to the opening of the musical that Knives and Steven put together with Matthew Patel, and
the main character of Scott.
Yeah, which is hilarious. This whole thing is so convoluted. But they get there and they're questioning everybody. Everybody's chill. The Katanagis are chill because the robot told them in the future they're bros.
I was about to say, and like they thought that like Scott had to fight all the evil exes. They're not really evil.
No.
They're not evil anymore because I mean there's like
events have changed.
Yeah.
So and what ends up happening is they go to the play, as they're watching the thing, you get to a penultimate climaxy type moment, and then the entire front of the thing explodes and all of them are transported into the far future. A wasteland where they have to fight very old Scott.
And it's called The World versus Scott Pilgrim, not Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
And that is the final episode. And it's all of them because he's like, well, if I can't get all you guys, if I can't get you to stop and that force field thing's going to work, I'm going to take all of you out. So none of this happens. It's kind of epic.
Amazing fight scene.
Super amazing.
Amazing.
Everybody's involved, by the way. Very cool. And then finally, older Ramona shows up, and she's got long hair now, and she tries to explain. She basically explains this was because Scott got depressed and assumed stuff, and she's like, why didn't you ever try to win me back? Anything, blah, blah, blah. She loved him. By this point, by the way, she's now 20 years in the future. She's more than
So is older Scott. By the way, this isn't old Scott now. It's older Scott.
Older Scott, who's like ripped and huge and gray-bearded.
He's like 47 now, right? Yeah.
So finally, they have this moment, and what happens? The Ramonas come to terms, and she's like, I love you, and she loves herself, and merges, and they become this like Super Saiyan Sonic Ramona.
Yeah, they make a little orb floaty Ramona.
And she sends much older Scott back where he comes from. She agrees. She talks to Scott and tells him, the things I love, I tend to run away from, this and that. But everything gets reset back to normal. They're both sitting there, and they finally make it to be able to move on. And you get this big, giant, wonderful, happy ending that everybody's about. Gideon was going to blow up. Gideon and Julie had a plot. They were going to blow up the theater. The demon.
You say that so nonchalantly, like they're gonna blow up the theater.
Whatever. The demon hipster chicks save the day and stop it from happening. But yeah, and then of course the very, very end button is that big giant room of screens, and now there's 2 chairs because Gideon and Julie. I believe Gideon and Julie are going to be the new villains of the second season. I hope they do follow more of the story and play with this more, because it's a new world. It isn't the same world.
We forgot something. It's not that important, but Remember the robot?
Yes!
When Scott was visiting the future.
Yeah, the first time.
There is a VR set, and it's through the robot. Well, no, not the first part, but the second part. It's through the robot. And he's basically controlling the robot in the past.
Yes.
So basically, he's the one following everyone around.
All the time
it's not just some stalker. Like, it's literally just Scott trying to see
what's going on.
Yeah.
And there's a really wonderful, heartfelt moment where older Ramona's like, I wasn't able, I failed, this and that. And he's like, I don't know about you, I saw you trying. The version I saw was fighting hard, looking for me.
Right.
Yeah, no, it was good. And we got to hear a lot of those, like, we got to hear Knives say chow down and a lot of the others lines from the...
It's time for you to chow down.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was good. So, there you go. Now you know, if knowing's half the battle, you're halfway to being a know-it-all yourself. What's the know-it-all indices for us for this series on Netflix? We gave it a solid 9. That's it, man. 9 out of 10. It was good.
Really good.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I know that I'm looking forward to seeing. I hope that they get enough attention that they choose to do a second season because I think it's all worth it.
I don't know. Personally, I don't know what you could do to do a second season.
I think it's just Gideon and Julie, a new adventure, a new story. I think they.
And why would it be called Scott Pilgrim?
Because they still like to, because they're bad guys and these are clearly the good guys.
I suppose.
Comment below. Let us know your thoughts. Have you seen it yet? If you haven't, go watch it. But if you have, comment below. We would totally love to talk more with you and hear what you have to say about it.
What was your favorite episode?
I think for me it was probably the penultimate episode.
Really?
Yeah, I liked it. I liked the future appearance, look at the future. I love the DeLorean jab. I thought that was really funny. And to me, seeing, because you finally understood what was going on. Because remember, I went into this thinking it was going to be more or less a close retelling of the comics. It wasn't, and I'm okay with that. I really like what they did.
I liked the second episode the most.
That was a good one.
That was really good. Like, I feel like it kind of set the tone of what was going on.
That's fair. No, right on.
In the beginning of every episode, Ramona dyes her hair.
Oh my gosh,
and
that is
I
so cool.
I just love that they took the time to do that. I love her little cat. I'm a Ramona fan page all day. No, I love how she dyed her hair in the beginning of every episode.
The animation I really like too. Like you said, it looks a lot like the comics, but like to the point that sometimes people will have like looks or impressions, but this really felt like the comic books. Like they did a really good job with the way the environment looked. Everything looked really good. The animation I thought was dope. Netflix Animation did a really good job with this. I'm really thrilled by the way that they represented each of the voice actors as well, because I think even though yes, you're being the characters started to really look and feel like the actors who were doing them, which I thought was cool.
I also liked how, they had a couple callbacks to the movie.
Yes.
I mostly love the movie.
Same.
We
watch it a lot in this house.
Oh yeah. We kind of use it as white noise. The bread one, the fighting scene, the bread makes you fat. Like how they're just like randomly just like doing this song and they just slip it in there.
Yeah, there were a lot of good lines like that from the movie, which I thought was cool. Seeing
the Sonic one.
The Sonic one was amazing. So because in the movie they changed it in the movie to be Pac-Man and that whole story. But in the comics it always was the Sonic idea, which I thought was cool. So yeah, I know Brian O'Malley. I know him in an interview. He said that he had a hard time with the character of Ramona for a long time in the comics. How to represent her, how to do it justice, because obviously he's a man and he's trying to write a woman. And so this, having removed Scott, was the key to unlocking her character, as well as magically suddenly finding voices for all the other characters. And that, I think, was really important.
Why would you do it, Scott? It's Scott's fault. Simple as that.
It totally is Scott's fault.
We beefing. No, okay.
We beefing. That's awesome. But yeah, again, comment below. Tell us your thoughts. What did you think? What are your favorite episodes? What are some things you thought were really good that translated to the story? And what parts of the story maybe did you not like so much? Always be respectful in the comments below, as well as to your hosts, because we love talking with y'all. So is there anything else that you can think of before we let everybody go? We did not get much, if any, of the songs from the movie. There's probably a rights issue, something translation. But we got a lot of
new ones.
A lot of new ones, a lot of good music. This is definitely another, you even said, you're like, oh, they're going to make me love this soundtrack already. Which I was like, right on.
Yeah.
No, because Scott Pilgrim, same thing. I love both of the Scott Pilgrim soundtracks. There's the music soundtrack, which is the score of the movie, and then there's the actual music that they played. And I love both of those.
And Knives joins the band at the end of the
That
movie.
was so cool.
I can't believe we forgot that too.
No, Knives joins the band. She's very cool.
She does keyboard.
She totally does. So, yeah, man, I enjoyed this. Again, I was a big fan. Any other thoughts?
No, I'll stop talking now.
No, you're good. You're good. I appreciate it, guys. Let us know your thoughts on the whole thing. We'd love to talk more with you. All right, guys, we'll see you again very soon. Never forget.
Everyone loves a know-it-all.
Bye.